beautiful friends. So much love to you. I just have a message on my heart. I'm feeling very fresh because I had a good cry this morning after a really crazy night of family being drunk and traumatic. And looking into the hell realms, a hell realm. And I'm just being really honest and vulnerable here because I feel like that's the whole point at this point. As a reminder that, whatever you're going through, you're not alone. But it was really painful, very painful. But now I feel like I'm coming kind of to that point of acceptance and just, surrendering to God and praying for God to come in to everything. But the message I want to say that just comes up every time something like this happens is one of the things I see so blaringly that keeps people in hell realms inside themselves is the disempowering stories and narratives that people choose to believe, that people even worship as their false god. Just fearful stories, just how it's never going to work out, it's all dark, there's no light, you can't do it, there's not enough strength, it's going to be this way, and just really basically like torturing yourself over these things that are beyond your control, circumstances that are beyond your control, because that's life. However, what is in your control to some extent is how you choose to respond to those circumstances. And this is where all of your power is. And this is what really makes the difference between living in a hell realm or living in heaven or anywhere in between. It's really hard to see. It's hard to see in yourself. It's hard to see in people. It's really hard to see in people that you love dearly. The very disempowering beliefs like that people really hold on to and carry. So that's just a reminder, to all of us. Because what I've been really seeing lately is just this specific kind of like slice of the hell realms where it's not necessarily evil that's keeping it. It's guilt and shame, fear, and overall just, if I'm being blunt, unknowing, willful separation from God. Which is kind of a mouthful, but what I mean is really staying separate from God and refusing to open up to God. And that's where it gets tricky with free will, because it's one thing if you know you're doing it, but most people don't even know they're doing it. And we all do this to some extent. That's why we have to be humble, and that's why I'm sharing this message, because there's times where it's blaringly obvious in extreme cases, like the one that I was a witness to last night. But I think for many of us, there's a lot of subtle ways that, maybe we're still believing disempowering narratives about ourselves or our life or our relationships or really anything. And I think it's so important to spotlight that and be mindful of that, because these are the kind of programs that can go unnoticed. They seem harmless enough, but I think that it's sort of just, these are programs of of dream killers, frankly, programs of joy killers, programs of peace killers. And I know life can be really hard. We all have to navigate circumstances at points in our lives that feel like they're beyond us. But it's just so important to turn back to God, whatever that means to you, to turn back to love and light and truth and strength at all costs, because you don't want to be in these hell realms. It's just like the gnashing of teeth for real. It's like, oh God. I don't know about you guys, but when I see it, it's like I feel like I'm scared straight, A lot of people talk about that, like when you see evil, like, souls are scared straight. They're like, oh shit, I don't want anything to do with that. Like, this is real, like, that's something that makes you want to give your life to God. And it's the same thing with these, like, really deep, depressing, shameful paradigms. It's like, to me, that's scared straight as well. I'm like, I do not want to live like that. I do not want to live in that shame, in that depression, in that despair. At any cost, like I said, we all have to navigate circumstances that can be very challenging, internally and externally. But that's why, I'm just saying it's so important to be humble and return to God. Again, whatever that means to you, like just finding that higher light, that deeper love, that truth, eternally beyond this realm, beyond the laws of man, beyond what people have told you, beyond your programs, beyond your past. Like, it's so essential. And in cases like that, I don't know what you guys are navigating. And in my own life as well, it's like more and more, I don't know how people are not just like giving their lives to God to the best that they can at this point, because these laws of man, and what I mean by that is just the programmed mind and the result of all this generational mind control, trauma-based mind control, all these systems, all these programs, all these like ways of being and interacting with people and the way you're treating yourself. Like, all of these programs are so inverted that we really need God to come in and assist us in clearing that and returning to truth. So that's just a reminder. And another thing that's on my heart, I'll probably make another video about this at some point, but I don't know, I was thinking a lot about forgiveness last night and how much we need forgiveness, like just having the courage to forgive it all, because there's just nothing worth holding on to at this point. Just is going to eat your heart. And on top of that, I'll just throw a couple nuggets in here. I need to make a whole video about this at some point, but I really feel like the people that get this, that understand what I'm saying and are living their lives in this way, or in their own integrity, living and turning to God and trying to create truth and beauty and harmony in this life, I feel like the level of love and support that we give one another could be a lot higher. And like, I feel like it's important at this time to really, really, really support one another through this journey, because it is, it can be very hard, and it's very isolating for a lot of people. It seems like many people still are very isolated in the way they're living, and you try to share like what I'm saying, and a lot of times people look at you like you're crazy, or they just sort of look at you like like, you don't know me, you don't know my suffering. But that's just how it is. But anyways, so I think it's really important to remember the plot of why we're here, and just really, I guess, just, a reminder to be more kind and just send more love and encouragement when you can to people, to everyone, and especially to those that are helping you, or that you're in a position to help. Anyone that has eyes and ears to hear, like, just don't be afraid to be extra, like, supportive, and encouraging to that which you want to see, and be open to other people supporting you more, because this is hard work, but it's worth it. It's worth it, and it's going to be even more worth it. So I think that's all I want to share right now. Community support is a really big thing that I feel like has been kind of lost among our society. And I know it'll come back in divine timing, but, maybe that's just something we can kind of put out there of, like, I feel like, this wave of whatever you want to call it, I like the term light workers. This wave of light workers or way showers or pioneers, people that are, again, just like really at the point in their life where they're wanting to devote their life to God, to truth, to love, to being helpful, to being expansive, to being happy, abundant, free, liberated, all these things. Just continuing to support each other. Don't just assume that, a lot of people make it look easy. Or, that's another program, is like, we like to make it look easy. But it's not easy. It can be. It's a paradox. It can be light when you surrender to God. It can be light, but it's still, the transformations that have to happen are very, very deep and profound. And we're all in the same boat when it comes to that. Some of us, we may be at different levels, different circumstances, but really we're all in the same boat when it comes to being on earth as a human being and navigating the illusions, the extremities, the emotions, the paradigms, the thoughts, all the weird relationship dynamics that go on in this world. Challenging. And also, here I go turning this into a full-on video, but okay, last thing I'll say. And I'm just gonna have to make a longer video, but I have to go live soon. You guys seem to like the lives a lot. But I think it's also important to, with all this darkness, with all this stuff, like, I don't know how much in tune y'all are with, like, the collective and what's, all this stuff that's sort of arising. And it's a paradox. It's like feels very like dualistic, like things are getting better and things are getting worse at the same time. But the old matrix is continuing to crumble, as we know it is, as we know it will. Maybe not, we may not know how or when, but we know that it is, and it is, it will. So, anyways, a message I was getting last night is that chaos that's erupting, or this darkness that's being revealed and exposed, the truth that's being revealed in the collective, on the world stage, and things that's happening in the world, as well as in your individual life and what you're going through. The darkness being revealed is not a sign that something's wrong, in the sense that you should stop, like, being your best self, basically, and really shining your light, and again, coming into God, bringing God into your life, and shining your light, however that is for you, however you choose to show up and shine your light as bravely and boldly as you can. That it's not a time to pump the brakes. You know, it's time to keep visualizing and receiving and creating however you can the world that you want to create. Because yes, the matrix is toppling, and we already know this because it's built on a foundation of lies and deception. So it has to crumble. It just has to. And it has to shake enough people out of complacency. It's just, you know, how it is. But don't let that be a complete distraction of the plot of creating these paradigms of light. Don't get discouraged just because it's failed in the past or you've never done it before. Like, that's the whole point of evolution. It's all, you know, it's like a baby learning to walk doesn't just give up after it falls a few times. You know, you keep getting up and you keep trying, and eventually you figure it out. And, you know, we're gonna, at some point, it's already happening, but just continuing to create paradigms, communities, systems of what I will call the new earth, of just a new way of being that's not built on deception and violence and lies and insanity, that's built on truth, that's built on God, that's built on deep respect for yourself and deep respect for all beings. Is that not what we're here to create? So don't get so distracted and lost in the darkness that you forget the plot of why we're here, and continuing to, you know, there's so many people creating amazing things in their lives, you know, and that's always really inspiring and important work to, you know, access that freedom and that joy and that light here. And again, as I was saying in the beginning, like, not getting pulled into these hell realms, but just starting to think in terms of humanity, you know, and what we get to create in the collective. You know, I know this is maybe a little premature, but just, I'm going to throw it out there. Just like, what would that look like? You know, what would it look like to have these, you know, communities of humans that, you know, again, these, like, it's like a completely new way of being with one another, where we don't have to base everything off of greed and fear and deception and manipulation and, you know, true systems that honor life, you know, whether that's education or governance, food, health, healing, like all of these things, you know. And the last thing I'll say about that, and then I really gotta go, is, you know, so is these paradigms are loving and intelligent of God. So they're very light, deep self-respect. Again, like, that's the emphasis, is deep respect for life, for yourself, for other human beings and creatures, animals, which also means having discernment, because I think that's where a lot of things have gone wrong in the past, is people try to build these paradigms of light, but they're not having the, I want to say, like, organic darkness, or just like, because we living in this dual realm, you have to have both. So, you know, you have to have that love and compassion, but then you also need to have firm boundaries and discernment, and boundaries, so that way, if, you know, so that way that things don't get compromised. I think that's been a huge problem in the past, is things get compromised because there's not enough discernment and boundaries and, like, values, you know, of these communities, these groups. So there has to be a really, like, good balance of you know, both of those polarities of, like, genuine wisdom and love and compassion, and protection, like firm boundaries and strength, and not letting things be infiltrated and compromised. So just something to think of. I know there's a lot of creative minds out there, and I think it's just something that's fun to talk about and think of. I know I touched on a lot of random things in this video, but that's just the message that wanted to come out. So thanks for listening. I hope you all have a beautiful day. Beautiful day, beautiful day. I'm sending you so much love. It's a beautiful day. Bye.